CLion, a cross-platform IDE for C and C++. Download now.
Have you ever felt excluded? Well, not because of who you are, but because of how something was designed. Okay, imagine this. How would you feel if you're lost in a foreign land where you can't make sense of signboards or maps or public announcements? Well, I have been in this place and it felt alienating and frustrating without internet. And let's not even go that far. Can you help me figure out if this milk carton is expired or not? As Phil just mentioned, we have a global audience today. So for all my American friends, it might be because it says January 3. But for folks who use British date format, it is not because it says March 1. Well, if you're wondering where this is going, well then, hi everyone, I am Sejal Gupta, and today I'll be talking about code and culture, focusing on how small design decisions can unintentionally exclude people. A little about me. I'm a full-time C++ software developer from India. And I've also founded a women-led tech community through which we've mentored nearly 300 students in STEM. Apart from this, I am also passionate about green computing and nowadays getting my hands dirty with signal handlers. And out of office, you can find me as a tea sommelier or a blogger. And I generally love to dance to Indian classical music, or you can find me binging Netflix. Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. I do not represent the opinions or of any other organization. This is solely my views and my opinions. Cool. So today, I'll take you on a journey through simplest real-world case studies that highlight how diversity and accessibility drive innovation. So let's explore how small intentional choices in tech can open doors for everyone. How we as developers can build meaningful products that work for everyone. But before I go any further, let's take a step back and ask ourselves, what is inclusion? Well, many believe treating everyone the same way is the best way to be inclusive. So let's look at this picture. Here, this person is doing a standardized testing, a fair selection. There are different individual animals. But by doing this fair selection, or so as they're calling it a fair selection, they're putting individual animals in a situation where their strengths are not optimally assessed. This is indeed treating everyone the same way, giving everyone the same opportunity. So this must be inclusion, right? Okay, here's another scenario where everyone is given the same support, but not everyone can fully participate. So this is often mistaken for inclusion. But as you can see, treating everyone the same way, providing everyone the same key is not enough. Well, moving forward, adjustments can be made to meet people's needs by temporarily fixing the barriers. But ultimately, inclusion isn't about fixing barriers temporarily. It's about creating a world where barriers don't exist, proactively breaking down barriers that enable full participation. And the final image, which shows true inclusion, extreme inclusion, when people have access, they have autonomy, and they have the ability to fully engage on their own terms. And the key takeaway, what is inclusion? So inclusion is not about fairness in opportunities. It's about designing the systems, designing those opportunities, those environments, our tech products in such a way which is regardless of background, which embraces differences. It does not matter what perspectives, what identities people bring onto the table. It's not about assuming one size fits all. Well, inclusion has many flavors: geographic inclusion, linguistic inclusion, neurodiversity, equity, economic inclusion, cultural inclusion. While all these are important, today I'll focus on two key aspects of accessibility and diversity. But what does this look like in real life? So let's explore this with case studies. Doing one right now. Have you watched or heard any of these Netflix series? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll just share once again because I think this extension is only available on Chrome. I apologize. I'll just share once again. Just you can go scan the QR code or you can join at slido.com. Just type in slido.com and put in the number 9828433. With that, you will get this active poll. And let's see if any of you have watched these Netflix series, or even if you've heard of these. Oh, thank you. I see votes are coming in. Okay. I know we have a global audience today, so it'll be fun to know more about you. And there are no wrong answers here, even if you've heard or just seen a glimpse of it while passing through the TV. Okay, I see many of you. And I think this strong engagement shows how Netflix successfully connects with a transnational audience. Well, here's the interesting part. This wasn't always the case. Until 2016, Netflix struggled to gain traction globally. And one key reason: lack of representation in their content creation teams, which were historically dominated by a narrow demographic. This meant that many potential viewers, much like myself, didn't see their stories, didn't see the experiences or the cultures being represented on the screen. And to address this, Netflix took a bold step. They consciously hired diverse talent of writers, directors, producers, and not just from underrepresented groups in the US, but from across the globe. They invested billions in telling stories that crossed cultural boundaries. And the results were remarkable. They saw a 30% increase in revenue, which is nearly $15 billion. They gained 47.3 million international subscribers in 2 years. And I think the key takeaway here is that diverse stories do connect the world. Netflix didn't just create content, they engaged with a global community where people felt seen and they felt heard. Okay. Now take a moment to look. This portfolio, as simple as it looks, is an example of what inaccessibility feels like for millions of people. According to the UN Disability Report, 8% of men and 0.5% of women, that's roughly 340 million people worldwide with color blindness, may not be clearly able to distinguish the text on the check resume button in the bottom. Additionally, 1 in 28 people, that is around 2.2 billion people globally, live with some form of vision impairment, including myself, and that makes it difficult for people to see the zoomed out picture. And just imagine if my hiring manager has accessibility needs. It's a completely avoidable design glitch on my part. What may seem like minor design flaw can create significant barrier for millions of people, including myself. And this is what I want to focus on today. How small, thoughtful, intentional choices in tech can break barriers and make opportunities for all. Well, now that we know what is inclusion, let's see what's in it for us. Why is inclusion in tech important? Or should I say, why should I care about inclusion as a developer? We need to answer this question not just for ourselves, but for millions of people who rely on the systems, on the tools, on the softwares that we create. And if you're just a facts person, then here it is. Let's take a closer look at the current state of inclusion in tech. As per reports, and all the reports are referenced at the end of the slides, and I'll be sharing the slides after the presentation. Women, who represent 49.6% of the global population, hold just 25% of the computing jobs. Less than 5% of tech workers globally openly identify as LGBTQIA+. Black professionals who constitute nearly 6 to 10% of population in countries like UK and France, and maybe more in other countries and different in other countries, but they represent less than 2% in IT jobs. This is from one of the Eurostats. And then only 1 to 3% of the global tech workers disclose disabilities compared to 16% of the global population who are living with disabilities. These aren't just numbers, they are missed opportunities. If we are building tech for everyone, shouldn't our teams reflect everyone? Well, inclusion is not just a moral obligation, it's a business imperative. It's a critical driver of innovation, for problem solving, and let's be honest, for financial performance. Research and case studies have consistently demonstrated the tangible benefits of fostering a diverse workforce in tech. And here's another reason why inclusion matters. Many tech products aren't designed for people with disabilities in mind, leaving a significant portion of people feeling excluded. So let's explore an inspiring example of accessibility done right. Microsoft recognized that many gamers with limited mobility face challenges with the conservative or the traditional controllers. And instead of making minor adjustments, they took a bold step. They formed diverse teams, including engineers with disabilities, to completely rethink the gaming accessibility. And the result was the Xbox Adaptive Controller, a revolutionary device designed with direct input from the people who needed it the most. And the key takeaway: diverse teams have the power to create more inclusive and user-friendly product. By involving people with disabilities in the design process, companies can reduce the risk of overlooking the critical usability needs and ensure that the products are truly inclusive. Another very crucial case study reflects how real global users can't really be put into a single mold. The classic one size does not fit all. Many algorithms and global softwares do not test for inclusivity. And in this case, YouTube created an automated sound detection system, content detection system for silent videos to hide them, assuming they contained no content. Because of this, deaf creators saw their educational content being, mistakenly being muted, and it was being flagged as it had no video, no audio in it. And that just led to reduction of the reach that their videos could have made. Just imagine the effect when this tech product has a global reach of 2.5 billion users monthly. The key takeaway, inclusion is not just beneficial, it's essential for true global user management. Another example to prove how smallest things like text boxes can be inaccessible. I'd like you to perform or go through another activity. I've also pasted a link in the Discord channel. There's also a link here on the screen. There's a QR code here. Please scan. I would really appreciate if you could all participate and we can conduct another quick, simple case study together. Let's say I'm just building a case study form or feedback form for my talk today. Just fill it through and let's see what kind of problems you face. Rest assured, the answers are not being saved anywhere. And I sincerely apologize if it is inaccessible for anyone from the start, because it is indeed the activity. I'll just skip past to the next slide because the link is also available in the Discord channel. And I've opened this poll now. Let me know if you've found any problems in navigating this form. Take your time filling out the form, although it shouldn't take you more than 30 seconds. But no rush, I'm not grading it. Someone has visibility issues. You can also play around, try some test cases, edge cases that you can think of. Okay, the code was pretty tiny, so I had to magnify it. It didn't go to the website. Okay, that's a temporary disability, I'd say. Limited pronouns. Okay, thank you. As you go through the form, think about what diversity means to you personally. How has inclusion or the lack of it shaped your experiences? Pronouns are limited to he, him, she, her. Validation code is hard to read. It was all in English. My first name and last name were invalid. I think these all are some very important gender not covered, LGBTQIA+. Absolutely. Code did fit the screen. Birth date format ambiguous. DOB, just text. Awesome. Captcha, the worst nightmare. I think you all are covering everything that I have in my slides later. Security check picture, somewhat hard to read. Correct. There's someone typing. Captcha is tiny. I agree. Validation code too hard to read. Date format not specified. I agree. Thank you so much for the 20 people who've taken this poll. Okay. And if anyone has joined later, please, again, feel free to join at slido.com. I'll have the polls later as well with me so that I can form just, a teeny tiny observability graph to show this at the end of my presentation. Cool. So I'll start and I'll navigate it with you all. As if I am navigating it with a screen reader. Okay. I'm not sure if anyone here had the need to use a screen reader or any assistive tool, but if you've had, then the screen reader actually missed the key, the key case study text. And in the code or in the form that you see, I have deliberately used ARIA hidden component to hide it from the assistive tools. But it just fails to deliver the information for someone who's using text to voice or some other assistive tools. And I think with just that ARIA hidden component, I've lost part of my audience because they've lost interest. They just don't know what form they're filling, except that I told them. But if that is not the case, then you don't know what kind of form you're filling, right? And you may have just lost the interest. Let's navigate further. Pronouns, absolutely. The pronouns are limited, and I've lost another percentage of my audience because there are people who don't wish to, identify themselves with the list provided, or who don't wish to disclose their pronouns. And then there was a problem of invalid first names, invalid last name. First name too short, it says. And then when I'm trying to put in something in the last name with some special characters like a space, special characters not allowed. Well, it's possible, right? That I am from a place, I'm from a region where I haven't seen such cases. And like cases where the first names are small or the last names can have special characters. We build with a person, with a personal bias. We implement code with a personal bias. Hence, having diverse voices is just essential for our code. And then another one that we had was that the date of birth, it was not, there's no calendar, it's just text. What is this? Again, the milk expiry thing, you don't know, is it 3rd of February, or is it, sorry, I'm also not very, sane with the American date formatting, but I think it's 2nd of March or 3rd of February. So it's just confusing. And without a pretext, even like have the decency to have DD, MM, YYY, or whatever you're using. Just have a pretext in place. Different people around the globe follow different date formats. And phone number, I hadn't kept there in case some of you didn't believe me that I was not really submitting or, putting your form solutions and your answers somewhere. So the phone numbers now in India, we don't have exchange codes generally along with our phone numbers. And if someone who is creating this form and I have to fill it, it'll be difficult for me to even go to the submit button. And there goes my feedback, their feedback actually. And then, absolutely right, the security check, the worst nightmare. I completely agree with you. The text here is completely unreadable. We don't know the first letter here is V, or is it just some noise that is introduced? And I have failed CAPTCHA tests multiple times, especially after filling long forms. It's just rude. So as you can see, and another thing I completely forgot, there's another thing. There is no audio button with the CAPTCHA. There are people who need assistive tools, especially like, being able to refresh it because someone identifies as neurodiverse. They're not able to understand the CAPTCHA, or someone who uses assistive tools because they want to hear it, right? As you can see, this elementary form, as simple as it looks, shouts inaccessibility. And for people, I myself would not be able to find what are the problems in this form because I don't comply with many of the edge cases here. Well, by now, I think the why of inclusion in tech should feel evident, but let's summarize. Inclusion in tech matters because it mitigates bias. Diverse teams can just identify, they can fix blind spots, they can mitigate bias. Innovation and diverse perspective. A team, I think, with a wider range of perspectives can consider edge cases which a homogeneous team might just overlook. And then accessibility overlaps with search engine optimizations. It just broadens reach. It increases traffic, which improves product adoption, brings more engagement to my product. And Henceforth, it gives the product more competitive edge in the market. And again, if you're a numbers person, here are some numbers from, again, some studies and some forums, which I have listed at the end. The global disability market represents $8 trillion. As per another study, diverse teams see a 19% increase in innovation revenue. And as far as consumer expectations are concerned, which we should be concerned of what our audience is and is going to be in the forthcoming century, 78% of millennials and Gen Z population prefer inclusive brands. And then inclusive workplaces, as per one of the Deloitte case studies, boost performance by 56%. It helps in retention. Now that we understand what is inclusion and why it's critical, let's talk about some good practices on how I can bring inclusion through my code. Unfortunately, there's no inclusion header, which we can simply call, but there are other practical ways to embed inclusion, to embed accessibility into our work as developers. We all have interacted with security protocols in some way or the other. And I think most of the things we've all either spoken about or listed earlier, but just be mindful of your audience. Many a times, the captchas and these authentication security protocols, they're just not legible to a neurotypical person, as we just saw, right? And just imagine how tough it would be for a person who identifies themselves as neurodiverse. The cat here in the picture on the left hand side is striped. Select all images below that match this one. I don't know. Are you asking me for all the striped cats? Are you asking me for all the cats? It's just confusing. And to highlight, audio is a must. Another thing that has come into picture is the WCAG. The World Wide Web Consortium, the W3C, has developed a web accessibility initiative, the Web Content Accessibility Guideline, which C++ Online also caters to. It defines how to make web content more accessible to people with disabilities. And a TLDR of it is make it keyboard navigable at the very least. Provide text alternatives for media content. Incorporate and provide assistive tech tools like captions, text to speech, voice recognition if needed. Then using accessible color contrast. I love this one. Here is a bar chart, a side-by-side demonstration of how key information could be lost with visualization. Definitely, a picture speaks 1,000 words. Indeed, visualization is a very strong tool to relay information. And nowadays, all kinds of softwares actually are employing observability into their systems. And this is one such scenario where conveying information completely relies on colors. Just using the right color palette is very important. Again, imagine if your venture capitalist or your CEO happens to have color blindness needs. Even in IDE designs, inclusion plays a role. If you're building one, just don't forget to integrate a customizable color palette. When we build with accessibility in mind, we don't just improve usability. We create an environment where everyone can work efficiently. Well, what do you think is the most overlooked aspect of accessibility in tech? Again, if anyone has joined in the midst of the presentation, here is a QR code that you can scan to enter the active poll, or you can join this poll through slido.com. Just enter slido.com and put in the number 9828433. The question is, what do you think is the most overlooked aspect of accessibility in tech? Have you seen something? What are your experiences? And I agree with actually all of these, to be honest. Performance and usability for low resource environments. Testing with real users who have disabilities, who are part of that inclusive environment, that inclusive community, inclusive language and communication, and designing beyond visual impairments. It's not just what you see. It's not just about color blindness or visual impairment. It's also about neurodiversity. People have mobility needs. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating in this poll. I'll move forward and just summarizing, building for accessibility ensures that no one is left behind due to physical or any cognitive barriers. Well, what about the barriers we don't see? And that's where diversity comes in. Consciously or unconsciously, the raw data we use often reflects some form of human bias. Prune your data based on the product that you're using, based on the audience that you have, and not semantically, but also by removing bias. One of the examples would be language translation tools. You should ensure, if you're building one, if you're using one, just ensure that there is inclusive dialect based on the audience. And especially when you're using dirty data, it can often perpetrate into, bring up harmful stereotypes in production, in chatbots. And as developers, we must actively address these biases by auditing our data sets, by monitoring the outputs, understanding the training and the testing data. Excuse me, sorry. And let's look at one of the case studies. So here, Snapchat's yellow face filter. I'm not sure if any of you have had the privilege to use it. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. But I know Snapchat has undeniably pioneered the world of AR filters. And I'm personally a big fan of this product. But once its beauty filters had lightened skin tones, that altered facial features, and that too a little inappropriately. And this happened in 2016 when Snapchat developed a face filter, yellow face filter, as it was called. And this lens was criticized, promoting harmful Asian stereotypes with slanted eyes, with exaggerated facial features. This case study shows us the importance of diversity in the design of QA processing, in the design of testing. When we prioritize D&I in the workplace, we are not just avoiding mistakes. We create better, we create more inclusive products, which caters to the global audience. And reiterating the small intentional choices in tech which can break barriers, make opportunities, and open doors for millions of people. Here is a case study on LinkedIn. They added a they-them pronoun in the identity dropdown. It was adopted by over 1 million users within a year. And I'm not elaborating any extreme cases. These are the simplest problems that we can fix in our codes. Let's see how. Our day-to-day programming practices sometimes, they can just unconsciously alienate users if we use a homogeneous outlook to the inputs, to the outputs, and we assume things. Here, it's neglecting non-binary, gender fluid users who don't want to identify themselves or categorize themselves into these two binary constructs. Next, assuming non-global standards, which we've seen before, right? Just enter the date of purchase and assume that in the second last line, if you see, it's just assuming that the second the second in the date format would be a month, right? And then accidentally neglecting other cultural holidays and traditions, especially if the product attracts global attention. And again, I'm not trying to bring out something which is unachievable, which which we see as a barrier. These are just some small nuances which we many a times neglect. And with this, I hope I was able to convince you that diversity bridges the gap between developers and a heterogeneous user base. But however intentional choices we make, a homogeneous group of developers may just not be able to attest to, the minor intangible inconveniences. And that is where I believe D&I, diversity and inclusion in the workplace, can ultimately solve these problems. I go by these four things. Building an inclusive hiring process. If you're in a place, just ensure the interviewers represent different backgrounds to minimize any unconscious bias, if there may be. Right. And then if you're in a position where you can make a more informed decision, just ensure that there is underrepresented group who has an opportunity and is not being neglected. Ensure that the hiring process is free from bias by maybe, anonymizing the resumes or conducting structured interviews, and not the first meme that we saw here, a man who's trying to give fair opportunities to people with different strengths. The second thing here is know your audience, know your clients. Take feedback from diverse backgrounds if you're building a product which you think works for all. And then, respect and belonging. Foster an inclusive environment, an inclusive work culture. Bring respect and belongingness to the workplace, to the table. And then ensure office spaces accommodate different abilities. If you're in a place where you have the capability to invest in D&I, ensure that the spaces that you have for people with different capabilities, different abilities, they are able to accommodate in that environment, not just physically, but also mentally. As per McKinsey report, companies with diverse teams are 35% more profitable with more market coverage. And as I mentioned earlier as well, they have they bring about 19% more innovation revenue in the system compared to their less diverse counterparts. Here is another thing. Hiring mindfully. When I say this, and if this comes to your mind, who are we? We are HR. What do we want? We just want this, we always want this, always have this, just because we want to make our stats look fitter. Well, this is not what I'm preaching. I am preaching, or what I'm trying to say is that this step is imperative for our business needs and to cater to the needs of a heterogeneous user base. The D&I investments gives an added advantage to us. It gives an added advantage of higher employee retention, stronger brand adaptation, and to be honest, higher rate of return. And this should be the reason, to hire my. So you're telling me diversity and inclusion improves the overall tech community? Well, yes. And the goal isn't just about equal job opportunities. It's about fair representation in the system. And that is inclusion. When we prioritize diversity, we're not just building better technology, we're building a more equitable future. Yes, everything might not just work for everyone. If I have built a ladder, if I have patented a ladder, let's say, it will not work for people who are using wheelchairs, but we can at least play our parts in, bringing a plank to that place if needed, right? We can play our parts in building a more equitable future where our code is not the reason for exclusion, and consequently making inclusion not optional. It's essential for building tech that truly serves all. With this, here are all the references to any of the surveys or case studies that I've used before. And here is my LinkedIn. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to. You can use this QR code. And I hope this time the link on this slide is apt. And with this, I think we can gather in the gather town.